right.
All right, guys, welcome. I'm Justin Yu. This is John B. This is Jan D. And Christian Elvis.
War Dog, Ram Dass, Katila Cotton, Christian Silverfox Warren. I got a lot of them.
A lot of them.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Before we introduce you to our guests, I have to ask my business partner here, Mr. Christian Ram Dog Warren, the War Dog.
Yes.
What's going on with the necklace? Everybody wants to know. Everyone's been asking today. We want to hear about that first.
Well, speaking of my dad, I was in Vermont and I took a nice family trip there, and my daughters were making necklaces out of all these beads, and one of my daughters made me a necklace, and then my dad saw that hey, he likes necklaces. So I'm like, yeah, Dad. So he's like, hey, son, come here. I want to show you something. I'm like, what is it, Dad? I almost felt like I was in trouble, right? He takes me up to his office. He busts this necklace out. He said, my wife gave me this, but I'm not going to wear it. Would you wear it? And then so I put it on. I asked my daughters, hey, girls, what do you think of this? Like, oh, it's cool, Dad. Oh, well, kinda. And like, but it doesn't really seem you. And I said, well, you know what? The new me is gonna start wearing these kind of manly, like, thick necklaces. So I went for it.
And I gotta interject here because this is perfect. When I first met this wonderful man, it was over here on Washington Blvd in 1995, and we met at Hal's Bar and Grill.
Yes.
And I shit you not, this is the weirdest full circle ever. He had these blue eyes and long hair, and he had these fucking weird sort of whatever. Hold on, no, wait a second.
Okay.
My first introduction to this homie is like, who's this dude wearing the weird necklaces? Like he was making them or whatever he was doing inside.
A good friend of
Yes, and that's my first memory of you.
So those necklaces he's talking to, it was a company called We Are One, and it had all the charms of all the major religions, meaning we shouldn't be separated by all that. It's how we were connected. Anyway.
Great,
good
great
segue.
Hopefully the company still exists.
I think it kind of does. Anyway, so this is coral. It's a Tibetan piece.
Looks like it's got a little penis on it.
Or a hot dog. Anyway,
whatever your takeaway is on
somehow I didn't know it was on a necklace.
And then, I'm wearing a little heart.
A little heart. It's a big heart, baby.
It is a big heart. Which also comes full circle of this conversation. The guy that makes our those necklaces I used to wear. I'm a girl dad. He's got a daughter as well, and who's older than mine. And amazingly, they keep all these clothes, right? These designer clothes, put them in the bags, and they give them to me, and I let my daughters pick through them, and then they have these amazing wardrobes because their daughter's very stylish. Anyway, this was one of the items in there, and neither one of my daughters wanted it. But I thought it was rad, so I'm like, I'm going to wear this.
Dude, very hardy.
The awesome new accoutrement that he is putting around his neck, because about
Okay.
Just keep talking.
Keep talking, baby.
We have a technical difficulty.
Turned off the mic to yell. All right, we're good.
He was worried about me yelling, so he turned down my mic.
Yeah, interesting. Very
when Elvis gets going, there was about a week ago where Christian was FaceTiming me, and I complimented his necklace, and clearly I think there was a couple of drinks consumed beforehand. I'm like, you know I wear a lot of necklaces, where's mine? And he goes, I've got one for you. I just want to let everyone know, I have not seen it yet.
Ooh. When the time is right.
Ooh. I haven't seen it yet.
When the time is right.
I'm wondering if it exists. Either way, let's start with the show. First, let's have an introduction. We did first name, last initial. Mr. John B.
John Henry Binder, John B. I've roamed these parts for many years, many moons, and I'm just glad to be sitting here at the right here, Pacific Ocean, Washington Blvd.
Practically on the beach.
Right here, Nalu Vida. Lot of memories, a lot of stories
We'll
here.
get into that. Okay.
All right. Jan.
Jan Dreyer, brewer. I've also roamed these these neighborhoods for about 30 years.
Yes.
I've known this guy for 30
And
years.
we'll get into
and
that.
this guy for 25 years or something like that.
Yes.
And now I'm making beer, among other things, for these guys. So
And
Right
we'll
on
get
the
into
beach.
that too.
All right, great
There's a lot of
introductions.
things we're going to dive
Yes,
into.
it's going to be a long episode today, guys, so buckle up. We start our episodes now from a mistake from 3 episodes before, starting with a review and a taste of a new spirit. Luckily, John Henry Binder, which I'm going to ask now, I was going to wait. This is the one human being I know that every time he introduces himself to someone, on his voicemail, he says his first and his middle and his last name. I'd like to know where that came from.
Well, I'd like to correct you first and foremost. I have a first name, John Henry. I don't have a middle name. And Binder, a German name. See, we the bean down. Anyway, my dad is John.
Wow.
Did you know that?
And he didn't. And he didn't.
That's amazing.
See the things you learn after 30 years.
Yes.
My dad didn't want me to be John Jr. He wanted me to be John Henry, which is a very, very important character folklore story in American history of the steel driving man. So when the Industrial Revolution
Yes.
hit America,
No, it does.
laying the railroad tracks, there was a very large black man, John Henry, who laid the railroad tracks, and he refused to give up his hammer to the machinery that they were bringing in. So he battled the machinery, and he beat the machinery, but he died with a hammer in his hand. Johnny Cash sings a great version of the John Henry
Song.
Thank
Wow,
you.
that is awesome.
That.
That is awesome.
There we go. JHB.
Well,
Quicker than Jay.
I'm glad I asked and you answered.
Thank you.
I
Thank
do
you.
know
Me
a
too.
lot about this, so why don't you take the
Yes,
the
this is
helm?
one of my
And
favorite.
while you're talking, can you
Yes,
give us a
of course I
little
can. I
basis?
spent some years behind a bar.
Did you
Let's
now?
say 26 years
That's
behind
a
bars.
little-
That's a really poor.
That's a.
I didn't know that War Dog
Did
was
I
going to go.
offend you
No,
today?
Jan,
Small
a
part.
little bit. We're drinking a
Never say I want a little, or you're gonna like get the repercussions.
this is a mezcal. Mezcal is a blazing hot category in the world of alcohol and alcoholic beverages, but it's a historically a fascinating story. People are mostly familiar with tequila and 100% agave distillate, but it's only made from the Blue Weber agave. Mezcal, however, has hundreds of different varietals. That's the plant that they pull from the ground and then they mash up, take the juice, ferment it, distill it, the whole thing, right? So anyway, La Luna from Michoacan, which is
Question.
one of the states. Yes.
So a lot of distilled spirits, they talk about how long their spirits are distilled. Now mezcal, they talk about how long is the plant in the dirt.
That's
Can you
right. Yes,
talk
absolutely.
About that a little bit.
Certainly maturity of a plant is going to yield a bigger piña, kind of like a pineapple. Piña.
Yes, and they call it
But
that because after you shave off the leaves, it looks like a pineapple.
This guy knows something about tequila, knows a little bit about Mexico, probably knows more about this category than I do, but I'm going to try my best here.
See?
Anyway, I got the honor to go to Michoacan and go to this distillery and to these farms, and they were wonderful, beautiful people in Mexico that I got to hang out with, and we were in Morelia. It was the capital city of Michoacan. And what's fascinating is you hear in the American press, go figure, a lot of negativity about Michoacan and the cartels. I had the most fabulous time down there. I was greeted and treated like
Boo to the press.
like John Henry Binder.
Fake news.
But this, right here, this bottle is an ensemble, meaning an ensemble of 3 different varietals.
What are the varietals?
Let me get there. Tequiliana, right, is one. Augustifolia is another. And then, God, what's the third one? It's Cupriata. Cupriata is kind of their...
Damn,
their
you're
sort of-
good, Binder.
You are
Anyway,
a master.
and then the big thing that we
and
need
Henry
to...
Binder.
See, he's there. Yeah. The beautiful thing about the method behind the madness with mezcals is that they take the historical and the ancestral and the artisanal approach. So they're still using, like, I don't know, the imagery I remember from down there was it felt like it could have been 100 years ago making this beautiful product. And I sat there, was fascinated by it, and then certainly drank as much of it as I
The
could.
donkeys still like
The
mashed.
Tahona, the whole thing is pretty impressive. Yes.
So how do they teach you to smell, taste? You have a technique for that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I always and I've heard and read and seen things. Usually, when you're trying to get the aromas, the best thing is that you keep your mouth open as you nose the glass, the vessel, and then
It's
take.
smoky. What makes it smoky,
Very
John
smoky.
Henry?
Because when they roast the pinas,
binder?
they roast them under the ground. So they do similar to a luau, similar to roasting a.
Under
Do you know
the
anything
ground.
about roasting pig?
You might know maybe a couple
Yeah.
things about roasting a pig.
So unlike the tequila pinas from the Blue Weber agave, they which are cooked in autoclaves or claves, however you want to pronounce it, ovens. They still employ and do the old method, which is to roast the pina for 48 to 36 hours under the ground before they take it out and then do the maceration and all the stuff. They will then eventually, convert into a wonderful spirit of sorts. So, but anyway, I'm actually taking a valuable time here because we are sitting next to one of the best brewers in the world. Beer, of course, we're going to shift from, I don't know, I'm taking over the podcast.
Great. That's exactly what we wanted you to do.
Yeah, thank you.
John Henry.
Thank you, Justin.
I have questions. We'll circle back on
Yeah.
the length of the time that this is in the dirt and what separates the different styles. of
Absolutely.
mezcal.
So, let's get back to that. Let's talk about beer.
Let's talk about Jan beer, and also you took one sip before saying we were going to take a sip. So I
Oh,
wanna know
guys,
your-
see,
rating.
I am
So,
such a
well,
non-expert when
No,
it comes to
I'm
distill.
curious about what you like about the flavor profile.
It's very smoky,
Right?
and other than that, I'm completely out of it because I probably have one distilled spirit drink a year, and that's it. I'm a beer guy, 100%. I make it, I drink it. That's my story. I don't drink wine.
There's got to be a bigger story there.
No.
We're going to read between the lines,
No.
and we're going to find it. You came to the right place.
In my early
When the last
20s,
time
I drank a cola rum, stuff like that, once in a while, but
Cola rum.
All right, Jan, what's your story? So you're from Germany,
yes, I am.
okay? When did you land to the United States, and what?
And Venice. And when did you get to Venice?
I landed right here in Venice. Let's forget the 80s. I was 6 months in New York. That's a different story. But I landed here in '92. I landed right here in Venice.
So did I.
I am still
So
in.
did I.
I am still in.
92.
I am still in Venice, and I landed here as a get this journalist. Actually, a writer for a big German magazine.
Oh,
And I did this.
You do look like a journalist.
Well, that's better than looking like a brewer with that weird beard and all that.
Hey, well played. Well played.
And it's funny. On occasion, I still journalize.
I call it crying in my diary.
Well, that's when you don't get paid for it.
know the feeling.
And journalists, by the way, for all those Americans out there, are very important people in our society. Don't let people tell you they're not.
Yeah. So that's how I got here. Actually, that's the same story behind the guy who's not here, my partner Roger. Also journalist, also got here in '92. And then we journalized for quite a while. But meanwhile, I was taken to a friend's house and they took me to another friend's and they had a homebrew setup in the garage. That was '93.
You said taken. Well, you were abducted, or
I was kind of like forced to hang out with these people.
English is not a Swiss language.
No. Maybe we should hear more about that part of the story. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I should have said taken over to that house.
Yeah, there you go. There it is.
And I saw this homebrew setup, and I thought, that's really crappy. We Germans can do that better. So I bought myself my first homebrew kit, and I made my first beer, and it was a whole grain beer right away. I didn't do an extract stuff like
can you
that.
explain whole grain to our audience?
Well,
they don't know.
if you do an all grain, you actually use the grains, the malt, and
What kind of grain?
barley. Barley is the baseline for pretty much every
Yes,
beer. There's
yes.
barley in every beer.
Yes.
Whiskey as well.
And the beer I made was an alt beer, and the funny thing is we still carry it. It's called Cryptic.
Yep.
It's a beer that I have carried for 30 years with me.
Two Coast Brewing Company, Gardena, California.
Look it up. Amazing.
And Yes, so I made my first batch, and it turned out okay, and I figured, this is something I can do. And then I homebrewed for several years until I got to the point where I was like, oh, I like to do this professionally, and studied and learned and studied.
Okay, study. Where did you study?
All self-study. I took some weekly courses up at Davis. I took some weekly courses or monthly courses at Technical University Berlin. Versuchs- und Lehranstalt für das Brauwesen. Where I met great people who I'm still in touch with to this very day. And learned more, and read books, learned, brewed, and so on and so forth. And then in 2002, I entered the brewing industry professionally as a concierge brewer for certain bars and restaurants, and I devised their recipes, and then went to breweries who would make the beer for me.
Nice, that's cool.
Can I rewind for a second?
Of course.
When did we meet? Was it 95?
Yeah, 95, yeah. Just down the street.
So I was a bartender at the Baja Cantina, which back in the 90s was one of the only places in the area, and that place went off. And I do remember the first time I saw Jan, and I remember seeing him, back then the management would hire people that we referred to as spotters, right?
God.
And so I never met this guy, but he would always post up against a wooden beam and just watch. And so me and the other bartenders were like, spotter. The spotter's job was to watch us, employees, and then give their notes back to management if we were stealing, drinking on the job, whatever it is.
All the things he was
And
doing.
so-
All the things he was doing. I don't know.
But did you never get reported because he wasn't?
Yeah, because he
He
wasn't.
wasn't a spotter.
He finally
But he acted like such a
spot.
spotter because he wouldn't talk to anybody. He would just post up and watch because he's an observer, right?
And I would bring my newspaper.
But we knew who he was.
Yep, journalist.
We knew who he was. He would come in and be friendly enough, and wasn't the best tipper, but it didn't matter. That's why it was just enough. That's why we assumed he was a spotter. But then.
After a little while,
then he came out of his shell. We would, talk, and he became one of the best regulars, because the regulars are what every time you show up to work, you want to see those regulars. Like, all right, I know I'm going to make at least X amount of dollars.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's the great thing about Nalu Vida. You might get that once in a while here.
So anyway, that's how Jan and I met, and it became
long time ago
in the mid '90s. All right,
and some other guys, and then I met John through him at
James Beach.
At James Beach, and
Institution in Venice for many, many years, and I happened to stand there.
many stories.
And we're not going to go there. We didn't have a long enough podcast.
But
A year-long podcast.
so I was a concierge brewer for a little while, and then I was planning on starting a brewery, and that was not immediately getting off the ground. But finally, in 2015, my current partner Roger, who has been working in sports on the East Coast, he had a sport company there, decided to come out here to California and let's start Two Coasts together. And we were what's known as a
What does Two Coasts mean? Where is that from?
Oh, Two Coasts. Yeah, that's a story. Hamburg, both our hometown is between the Baltic Sea and the North Sea.
Okay.
So that's Two Coasts. And then Roger, of course, was on the East Coast in New York, and I was here for 30 years. So that's another Two Coasts.
Yes.
All
So
right.
there's
It's always about the stories.
That is a great story, and we need to make sure that
There's
it's
and
part of everything.
Yes.
And if the audience goes online and looks at Two Coast and look at our logo, they will actually see it, and then they look up the city crest of Hamburg if they are so inclined, and they will see that it is a 80% adaptation of the city crest of Hamburg.
Very cool.
That became.
That's awesome.
We turned. It's sort of like a gate to the city, and we turned that into a lighthouse that shines to the two coasts.
Yeah.
We need more beer on that.
There we have it.
Trying to get some.
Look at that. That was pretty cool. Very
Yeah.
impressive.
And
I can get it.
oh,
Amber.
that's right there. Am I in frame there?
It's in frame. You go closer. Can we get hi? Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
This is Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber.
Can we get 2 more Modelo or Naludellos?
Absolutely.
What?
Go!
Do it again. Do it again. Do it again.
You're
Go ahead, retake.
It doesn't matter. We're not any of that. You're gonna get smacked in that.
And the Nalu Vida is actually a beer that I designed and made for these guys.
there you
So,
Freudian slip. I meant to do that.
and we started Two Coast in 2016. And Kristen is also part of the owner of a brand called Venice Duck. And the Duck actually made their beer in the same facility where I started making our beer. That's
right.
That was Hermitage, right?
Hermitage, yeah.
Hermitage.
Hermitage. Great brewery, by the way.
Great brewmaster,
Fantastic.
Peter Licht. Fantastic guy. Still
American. Clearly.
American, yeah.
And the founder too.
Licht.
Yeah.
Well, he is actually American, but his family is
Lou.
not.
Yeah.
And
Lou, right?
he also
Lou.
has a funny story.
Lou.
He
Lou.
has a PhD in French literature. So
To Lou,
to Lou.
the founder of
Lou of Hermitage, who was
Hermitage.
doing wonderful things with
who's
beer.
moved on.
Peter did the moneyless arts before he decided to become
Moneyless arts.
Yeah,
I like that.
French literature. I mean,
Yeah.
you cannot make much money with that.
No, you cannot.
And
Sounds like
before
we gotta find a way to do that.
before he came west and went to UC Davis and got a master's in
I went to UC Davis for 1 year.
fermentation
And I ran
science. So
from
that's
there.
my friend Peter, and still in my orbit, still an advisor, great guy. And so that's how we ended up in Gardena, and right before the pandemic, which was not pleasant. But that's where our own facility is right now, and where we make
Well, let's talk more about that after we review this fine mezcal.
right, where we focus on German beers. That
Yeah.
was my lesson.
So I would like to say on that note, as we review this, that the
I might even need a little more. Maybe I might have been sneaking some.
you know
You sneaky.
So,
I mean,
so Jan, Christian, you do such a great job explaining our rating scale. So let's give that to Jan right now.
I mean, it's basically. I mean, it's you know what a thumbs up is, but when you have the chaka, right, like the hang loose thing, it's still a thumbs up vibe. But you just have to. It's just the scale. Thumbs down is 0 all the way to 10, right?
What am I rating?
Oh, we're rating the mezcal.
Don't ask
No,
me.
but-
I'm dumb.
No, that's
no,
perfect.
no.
We want
We want
let me interject too.
okay.
Let me interject on this before you rate it. What Jan is speaking on is the smoke quality. You got to get through that a little
You
bit.
have to
You got to get
understand.
through to that plant. That plant, those 3 varietals are in there. Like
Jan, you went to Davis. It's agriculture
So,
forward
you're
over
familiar
there.
with-
Yeah.
you're
You
familiar
should
with
be
the
able
great call.
to pull something out of this.
You do it. You
All
can
right,
pull it out.
you're
Let
familiar
it
with
sit.
the-
Let it
with
sit. Let
tequila.
it sit. Let
This
it
is
sit.
smoke
Open
like
your
if
mouth
you're
as it's
smoking
in
a
there.
meat.
As it's in your mouth. Open up.
It's a plant that's been sitting there for 15 years.
Because I
They
can
take
give
it,
you
extract
16
it,
different things I'm getting from it.
They smoke it, they ground it down, they ferment it, they put it into a still, then
Tastes
they
like
add
butterflies.
water.
And I mostly get a burn in the throat because that's how little I know about spirits.
Well, then take one more sip.
It's like if you're tasting wine. Like what?
It's hard for him. His palate is
Well,
a different palate.
Here, I get it.
Go back to Davis right now in your head.
I get the smoke, and it's actually fairly pleasant. It's not overwhelming.
That's good.
Okay.
But
Smell it.
below that,
I get cantaloupe.
a little bit.
I get
I think
cucumber.
I will say that this has a lot of ethanol on the nose.
It's very spirity.
Very,
Yes, it does.
Very
Sure.
spirity.
That is
Smoke
that
ethanol.
I.
There's still some rich fruit there on the.
Oh,
on
I
the
get so
nose.
much in that.
There's so much papaya raisin. Like,
Dude. And that's a great point. In that area where they're making this in Michoacan, they do an open air fermentation. So you're
All
drawing
the
from
natural
all the
stuff.
natural things that are growing, mangoes and like you said,
Very cool.
papaya and all that stuff. So
Funny, you said raisin. I'm like pinpointing raisin right
no, it is. And
Yeah.
again, I will say, to speak on what Jan's talking about, it's hard to get for some palates that aren't used to.
So my finger rating would be like
40%.
this.
It's harder.
Oh yeah.
That would probably work in a lot of places.
That's it.
Just saying.
Well played, sir. Well played.
But what I get clearly, or what I do understand is that the reason of the roasting of the piña is actually to turn the starches in the piña into sugar.
Yes.
So it's kind of like similar, not identical, but similar.
There's a lot of
to,
similarities.
to our mashing process,
Right.
where we use warmth to activate enzymes in the grains. In this case, you activate enzymes in the piña.
Interesting.
Very cool.
And you need to have the roasting because otherwise you have non-water soluble starches
Right.
that you cannot ferment.
Without heat, you will not get alcohol.
That expedites the enzymes.
No,
I mean,
the enzymes would not even activate
ferment?
That's
under
without heat?
148 degrees
You have
Fahrenheit.
to turn something into sugar, though, and you need the heat to
It's all
turn
about
something
sugar.
Where did the first alcohol come from? With
There's a
humans,
lot of-
right?
there's-
There's
there's
some bad grapes or something. And
Actually,
we got fucked up.
sitting out in the sun.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay,
self-fermenting.
Fine. All
No,
right,
but the
you're right.
grapes already have
Sugar.
enough sugar in them.
But you got to turn it to alcohol.
Well, that's fermentation. So that's yeast. But you have grains. You have grains that
We can geek out for hours.
that
try
just
not
contain
to.
starches, and the process in the grain is actually the summer sun starts the little embryo to come, and then the warmth activates the enzymes so it can grow, because otherwise once the grain is in the ground over winter, the rain would wash away the nutrients. That's why the plant stored as starch and not as sugar, which is a different story.
Oh my God.
Hold on, though. I'm going to just say, I will guarantee that this is the most informative episode on this whole
Hell yeah.
bar banter that we're doing here
They
for
were
these
out
lovely
of,
gentlemen.
we were out of Nalu Vida changing the case, so we're drinking the Kolsch now,
I love that.
which is a
Well,
phenomenal
this is great
beer.
because Jan makes the Kolsch. Please, can you tell us the origin of Kolsch?
Oh yeah, of course.
I knew he was going to say that.
Really? You don't see it, Justin stamping on his foot right now. Like, say it!
The German word for cologne is Köln, and Kölsch literally means from
Did you
Cologne.
get him?
From
Bill?
A boy from
All right.
Cologne is a Kölsche Jung. So Kölsch is a beer from Cologne, and it has a rich history of 400, 500 years.
Listen, Christian.
And to this very day, there is a producers union that is protected under EU rules that you can only make this beer in the city of Cologne if you are a brewery in the city of Cologne and you are part of that that cartel. And if you make a beer in Munich that is the same beer, you can call it Kölsch style, but you can't call it Kölsch.
Wow.
What about here?
Doesn't matter to us because we
We're
are not.
Americans. We're Americans. We're Americans.
We
Very
are
good.
not part of the European Union
Yes.
domain original rules and
Got it.
laws.
How do you know that? Maybe we are.
Well, trust me, I did my research years ago, many years.
Which is what which is what
Jan likes
true journalists will do. They'll do research.
Yes,
Isn't it
that's what we
amazing
do.
what journalists do.
And then mix that with really, really anal retentiveness and some OCD, and you have a German brewer.
And you sit next to 88.
Boom! Boom!
Speaking of that, here's a nice little anecdote. One of the brewing professors that I learned a lot from, Professor Karl Wackerbauer at the TU Berlin. Professor Karl Wackerbauer,
I'm not going to try to say that.
TU Berlin. And he had a new class coming in. All of these guys would be masters of science after 4 years. And when the new class came in, he would always say, stand in front, all the courses were held in English, in 4 years you will leave with a fancy degree, but make no mistake, you are just glorified cleaning ladies.
By the way, well told. That was awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're running out of time now, so we have to.
Let's rate the.
We have to review this so we can get out of here. All right.
But there's so much to talk about.
There is. Christian,
Yes. Oh,
you get to be first up here.
all right. Let's pretend this is my first sip.
sip. That was.
Yeah. That is a fine mezcal. I love the smoke and the fruit. We're going up. We're teetering up. I'm giving it. We're holding at about a strong 9.
Strong 9.
That's a very large score for.
That's what you gave the last one.
Yeah, I know.
You guys get a 9-10.
All right, Jan.
I keep holding it at a very strong coolness.
You gotta have your sip before you turn that one on. All right.
I did my sips, and I could probably finish
Why don't
this.
you just do this? Can you get no? Just try to hold your hands straight.
I honestly can't. All
right, we'll give it a hang loose, and it's somewhere. It looks like it's around.
hang loose.
It looks like his hang loose around 6, maybe.
Yeah, it's actually.
Hey, from a non-spirit drinker, I think that's a very high score.
I would, yes,
Very high score.
yes.
All right, John Henry.
Sorry, I'm answering
Are you
questions.
working right now,
Yeah,
sir?
people are watching this and they're like texting me. I'm like, what's happening right now? I mean, La Luna, near and dear.
Biased or non-biased?
Yeah, biased for sure.
No, I've experienced who they are. Salvador is a legend, and I'm going, bam.
All right.
Right on.
All right.
I don't drink a lot of mezcal.
Liar.
I think this is very well done. There is that mesquite on the front of the palate, and then the warmth. But there's also there's a creamy element and that rich mango.
Just got that creamy, just as you said.
Wait,
Wait,
because you're wearing a phallic symbol around your
Jesus. Can we not descend into the gutter, gentlemen?
darkness. No, but
Wrong
there's.
with us.
You want a list? But in all seriousness, I'm gonna give this. We're up here at an 8.7, 8.6, 8.7.
All right. Almost aligned. Yeah.
Strong.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, did we introduce ourselves as Nalu podcast number or whatever?
No, it's all good.
Oh, okay. I'm just
Nalu
saying.
Vida,
We're trying to be
Washington,
consistent here.
Venice Beach, Justin Urich, Christian Warren. Oh,